Introducing John. So John is a longtime disability rights activist and advocate. I first met John about 30 years ago. I was the manager of the vocational rehabilitation / employment programs at the March of Dimes in Thunder Bay. And my job was to transform our services from being a sheltered workshop to a more modern employment center. John was working at the Ministry of Labor, and we brought him up to Thunder Bay to give a workshop on how to do physical demands analysis. Because as we talk about accommodation, we have to understand what the actual work is in order to then make that match. So John also is a union activist. He's been active in the disability rights caucuses within OPSU, the Ontario Public Service Employees Union, and the Canadian Labour Congress. And he is into partnerships. So he comes from the disability rights movement, and he's kind of become a partner with our injured workers movement in Ontario. He's a member of our research action committee with the Ontario Network of Injured Workers Groups, and he loves music. So, John Rae.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure to follow this minister. When Steve offered me the chance to speak, I told him I would probably spend my time talking about two of my very favorite topics, which are procurement and infrastructure. However, a funny thing happened between then and tonight. Well, maybe it's not, no, actually it's not that funny. I received the draft strategy, and I've read it twice, and because of one sentence in it, I decided I just had to change my whole plan for this evening. We'll get there in a minute. I'll keep you in suspense for a bit. Unfortunately, in my view, although the draft has some useful components to it, I think it's quite timid. And timidity is not what we need. It, in my mind, fails to deal with many of the real burning issues of the day. Those include, but are by no means limited to, the disproportionately negative impact that precarious work is having on our community. The fact that the compensation system is much less a compensation system and much more an insurance system where the needs of injured workers are not being adequately provided for. The fact that a number of companies, as they upgrade their IT systems, purchase new technology that they know, yes, that they know, is not usable by all of their existing staff, never mind some of the rest of us in the community. Yes, they know it. I'm not going to give you names because I might be accused of slander, but I know of some. The list goes on. But I said there was one sentence that really got to me. It's on page 15, and it is this, and I quote, "Many employers have told CCRW," you got that, right? Many employers have told CCRW that they would not embark, they wouldn't even embark on hiring people with disabilities without specific guidance and advice from employment agencies. Think about those words. I think that's a nicer way of putting the fact that there's a lot of employers that don't even want us darkening their doors. They want nothing to do with us. And that's why our employment picture is so grave. And this, I think, is 2018, isn't it? I think. And yet, after decades of educational work on the part of numerous organizations, many employers still don't want anything to do with us. Well, the strategy doesn't respond to that. The other biggie that it doesn't respond to is the changing political climate in this country. And I want it perfectly understood that I believe in I believe firmly in operating in a nonpartisan manner. What I'm about to say may sound a tad partisan. I'm sorry, I can't help it. We have seen the election of a number of right-wing governments in this country over the last year. And they seem to have one thing in common. They seem to parrot something that goes like this. There is a simple solution for the poverty that you deal with. Go out and get a job. I assume some of you have heard this parroting. Well, there's a problem with that. It's a big problem. They have never even suggested where are all those jobs we're suddenly supposed to go out and find and obtain. Not once. They also haven't put into place new programs to help us achieve those goals. Where are all those jobs? I ask you, and I ask you to ask politicians, where the hell are they? Where are they? So what do we need? Well, the federal government has promised 5,000 new jobs over the next few years for our community. That's a good start. They should be commended for that, and I'm the first to do so. I'm happy to do so. But we need to hold their feet to the fire. We must make sure that those jobs don't just go to the cream of the crop. They must include some folks with more serious disabilities, like those with episodic disabilities, those who have intellectual disabilities, some from my community, from the blind community, folks who have somewhat more difficult to hire disabilities. But I think we need one more thing. And I challenge the federal government to do this. They need to show the way. Their 5,000 jobs are a good start. But what needs to happen is the minister, you and your leader, need to call together, and I challenge you to do this, need to call together business, labor, and some of us consumers and see if you can convince them, cajole them, do whatever you have to do to get more employers to do what the federal government is about to do, hire more of us. We need a new social contract in this country, and I believe it will take action from the highest echelons of our country, from the federal cabinet and from the Prime Minister himself. I reissue that challenge tonight. That's something that needs to happen, and I thank you for listening to me. Thank you.